Acquisitions is one of the most popular career paths in commercial real estate, and it's pretty easy to see why that's the case. The pay in this part of the industry can be really good. The day-to-day work experiences you'll have are often challenging and exciting, and for people who want to build their own real estate portfolios at some point in the future, these can be some of the best roles in the industry to prepare you to make that happen. But just like with all good things, there are also some downsides that you need to be aware of if you want to go this route. And in this video, I want to talk through both the good and the bad of career paths in real estate acquisitions and what to know first before getting started. So the first thing to know about a career in acquisitions is that if you don't consider yourself a numbers person and you can't see yourself working in Excel for any sustained period of time, this part of the industry is probably not for you. When you first start out in acquisitions, you'll almost always start at the analyst level, which will primarily have you underwriting deals and building models in Excel to analyze investment opportunities. And even though you do tend to get further removed from Excel-related work as you progress within this career path, in almost all cases, you'll need to spend about 3 to 5 years working in analytical roles before that starts to happen. And even when you do move on from the analyst and associate level, you'll still need to be able to review and audit models that your analysts and associates put together. And you'll also need to understand what types of adjustments need to be made to assumptions in a model that can ultimately help a deal pencil. Now, some people really like the analytical portion of things, and if you want to learn how professional investors evaluate deals, acquisitions can be a great place to do that. But if numbers and math just aren't your thing and you can't see yourself spending at least a few years working pretty heavily in Excel, a career path in acquisitions might not be the right fit. Now, the next thing to know about working in real estate acquisitions is that travel can end up being a really big part of your job, and that isn't always a good thing. When you're just starting out at the analyst level or even at the associate level, significant travel tends to be pretty rare, but when you move into manager, director, or VP level roles, you'll often be responsible for covering a handful of different geographic markets. And because real estate is a tangible asset and extremely dependent on location, regular travel at this point in your career starts to become a necessity. And while this might sound good in theory, in practice, most of this travel usually involves visiting the same 3 to 4 markets every single month, and you'll often find yourself on the road about 2 to 4 days per week, which can also be pretty tough to manage as you get older and start a family. In most cases, the travel destinations that you'll go to also usually aren't places that you'd voluntarily sign up to visit, and unless you're only working on acquiring Class A office properties in downtown locations, a lot of your time will very likely be spent in slower suburban areas without a lot going on. Now, if you really do value travel and you enjoy touring different buildings and connecting with brokers and sellers in person on a regular basis, this can actually be a pretty big benefit of working in acquisitions overall. But if you think of yourself as a homebody and you don't want to be on the road for the majority of the work week, this is definitely something to know before going down this path. Now, the next thing worth thinking about when considering a career in real estate acquisitions is that income levels in this part of the business can be extremely variable and are often out of your control. One of the biggest benefits of working in acquisitions is that while salaries are often pretty high, bonus potential can often be even higher, especially as you move into more senior level roles, which can make your all-in pay extremely impressive when specific performance targets are hit. But the main issue with this is that even though this is technically a pay for performance structure, that performance that you're being judged on is not always completely in your own control. You could be an extremely talented acquisitions professional, but if you're dealing with a fickle ownership group that says no to the majority of opportunities you present, you're working for a company that has a difficult time raising capital, or economic conditions have shifted in a negative direction overall, you're not always going to get paid in direct proportion to what you contribute. And if deals don't end up closing, bonuses aren't paid out. And when you move into more senior level positions where bonuses can often be 100% or more of base salary, your take-home pay in a bad year might be less than half of what it would be in a good year, even if the amount of work you do ultimately stays the same. Now, again, there is a lot of income upside when things are good in acquisitions, and if you end up working for a company that's well capitalized and looking to grow, this can be much less of an issue. But if you think you'd end up having a tough time dealing with major income fluctuations on a year-over-year basis, this is also something to consider before going the acquisitions route. Now, the next thing to think about before getting into this career path is that when the economy slows down and transaction activity slows with it, acquisitions professionals tend to be some of the first people to lose their jobs and the last people to be rehired. If deals aren't getting done, an acquisitions team very quickly starts to look like overhead that can easily be cut, and the bigger your salary is as you move into more senior level roles, the more likely it tends to be that you'll end up being let go. Down cycles in the real estate market also tend to take a while to turn around, which means that if you lose your job at the beginning of a downturn, it might be several years before you're able to fully get back on your feet at the same level you were beforehand. Being laid off when working in acquisitions is a very realistic scenario when you're working at smaller firms that rely on transaction-related fee income to keep the lights on, and if deals don't get done and that income isn't generated, payroll costs are often one of the first things to get cut. Now, when you're working at bigger firms, this can sometimes be less of an issue since revenue streams tend to be a lot more diversified the bigger a company gets, but it's worth knowing that the odds of losing your job in acquisitions tend to be significantly higher than they would be if you ended up working in asset management, portfolio management, or even in lending. Now, the last thing that I want to bring up in this video is something that I don't think is talked about nearly enough, and this is that acquisitions is arguably the most competitive part of the real estate industry and the hardest to break into. Because of a lot of the reasons we mentioned throughout this video, acquisitions tends to be one of the most desirable places to be in commercial real estate, which means that when you apply for these jobs, you're going to be going up against people from the best universities with the most real estate experience and usually with the most industry connections. This can end up making it a lot harder to get your foot in the door than it would be if you were targeting more operations-focused roles to start, and this can also make the timeline to land a job in the first place significantly longer. Getting your start in acquisitions often requires a lot of networking and informational interviews, a really strong technical skill set, and a really impressive resume that ties all of these things together. So there's usually a lot of work that needs to be done up front before landing an offer in this part of the industry. Now, the main upside of this is that when you do land a job in acquisitions, you tend to end up working with a lot of very smart and very talented people, but just know that if you plan to go this route, it's probably going to be a lot more difficult to get your foot in the door than it would be when pursuing just about any other role within commercial real estate. Ultimately, acquisitions careers are popular for a reason, and in my opinion, this is one of the most exciting parts of the real estate industry, but these are some things that I learned during my time in this part of the business that I wish I paid a little closer attention to before starting out. And if you've made it to this point in the video and you still think that acquisitions is where you want to be, and you want to make sure you have the skills you'll need to make it through interviews and pass an Excel modeling exam that might be given to you during the process, make sure to check out our all-in-one membership training platform, Breaking the CRE Academy. A membership to the Academy will give you instant access to over 120 hours of video training on real estate financial modeling and analysis. You'll get access to hundreds of practice Excel interview exam questions, sample acquisition case studies, and you'll also get access to the Breaking a CRE Analyst Certification exam, which covers topics like real estate pro forma and development modeling, commercial real estate lease modeling, equity waterfall modeling, and many other real estate financial analysis concepts that will help you prove to employers that you have what it takes to tackle the responsibilities of an analyst or associate at a top real estate firm. And if you like this video and want to see more content on the acquisitions career path, make sure to hit the like button and let me know. And let me know in the comments what other real estate career paths you'd like to see covered in more detail in a future video on the channel. As always, thanks so much for watching, guys. Hope you found this helpful. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already to see more videos like this every single week, and I'll see you in the next video.